You're going to kill your trees if you do not water them properly. And over the past 2 decades, I've learned a lot about planting new trees like this tree line here and how you need to water them. And there are 4 specific tips that I've learned over the years that I'm going to share with you, along with some things that you'll want to look out for to determine whether you are overwatering or underwatering. The first point to consider is the time of day that you're watering. And regardless of the age of your trees, whether you've just planted them like these trees or if they are more established like the other lines of trees that I have in my yard, you always want to follow one tip, and that is to water in the early morning or in the late afternoon. You want to avoid that midday time period because that will help reduce the amount of evaporation that comes from the water that you're putting down, and it really enables that water to get down into the roots of your tree properly. Second is the amount of water that you're going to put down for your trees. Now, when your trees are less than 3 months old, you'll want to put a good 2 to 3 gallons of water down per session. Usually that's per day, depending on the schedule. We'll come back to that in a minute. If they're older than 3 months, which is right around that time period when they have well-established roots, you only need to account for about 1 inch of water per week. Now, you have to factor in rainfall, so you have to keep an eye on the weather regardless of their age so that you can account for the right amount of water. Third is the frequency of how often you water. Now, when your trees are rooting and they're less than 3 months old, you want to water at least every 1 to 2 days. Once I get beyond that 3 to 5 month time frame, I actually don't water my trees and I let nature take its course. This past year, we had a massive drought for months and our lines of trees all survived, and I did not water them one time because they were so well established. But there is a caveat, and that is point number 4, and this is the one that no one considers in their watering plan, and it is the temperature. What is the climate like in the region where your trees are trying to root? Now, if the temperature is above 80 degrees, you will want to make sure that you water daily because the evaporation rate climbs dramatically, especially when you get above the 90s. If your temperature is in the 70 to 80 degree time frame, you'll want to water approximately every other day. Of course, you have to factor in the amount of rainfall that you have too. Now, if your temperature range is somewhere between 60 and 70 degrees, you'll want to water twice a week. And if you're below 60, well, you'll want to just keep an eye on the soil below your trees and only water when it looks like it's dry. If you factor in the temperature along with your frequency and the amount that you're watering, you're going to see much better results with your trees in their early phase. As they get into their older phase, that's just going to help them further. Now, one bonus tip that I want to share with you is regarding how to water. You can walk up with a hose and just water right around the base of the tree and make sure that it's nice and soaked. However, the best way to water these trees is with a drip watering system. To accomplish this, you don't have to go buy anything crazy expensive. All you need is a decent soaker hose, and I picked mine up at Lowe's. Now, my tree line here that I'm going to be watering is about 60 feet long, so I got a 75-foot hose. I have a little bit of extra, but there's one thing you want to keep in mind with this. A lot of people will show you that you should snake your hose around your trees in order to get the watering done properly. Certainly a way that you can do this, but you want to keep that hose away from the trunk of the tree. You're not watering the trunk because you can cause trunk rot if you put too much water concentrated at the trunk and not out at the roots, which is where the water needs to be. So for me, I actually bought 2 soaker hoses, and I'm going to run a splitter so that I can run them both right down the sides of the tree line and get equal spread of that drip watering across the roots for those trees. So how do you know if you're overwatering or underwatering? Well, there's a couple things that you can look out for that are going to help you determine this. If you're not applying enough water or underwatering, you're going to notice that the tips of the leaves of your foliage will start to turn brown. You'll also notice that the branches themselves will start to droop excessively. This is a sign that you don't have enough moisture and you need to add more. Now, if you are overwatering, you're going to notice that your leaves or your foliage are completely yellow and it's going to look like they're wilting. So you want to back off on your watering schedule and adjust. Now, if you've gotten to that point where it is that yellow, you may want to back off for a handful of days and monitor your soil to see how moist it is. Once you notice the excess moisture coming out of the soil and it looks like it's drying out, adjust your watering plan and back off from where you were previously so you can get a more optimal plan for those trees. But watering your trees properly is just the first step. What about mulching and fertilizing? Well, for more information on whether or not you should and how you should, check out this video. And until the next time, keep doing it yourself.